Alina Rodriguez stood in the center of the massive chamber, her hands steady at her sides. Around her, hundreds of alien faces stared down from floating platforms. The air smelled strange, like metal and something she could not name. This was Unity Prime. It's a huge space station that orbited Earth. It was where humans met with aliens from across the galaxy. The chamber was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Alina wore her best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold trim. She had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 5 years now. Today felt different. Today felt like an ending. High above her, the reptilian form of Counselor Zeth Prime moved on his platform. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes never blinked. The Keth were warriors always talking about strength and control. They had been pushing humans around for months now. The matter is simple. Human, Zeth Prime said. His voice came through the translators as cold and sharp. Your species has developed weapons that are too dangerous. You must give us your quantum drive technology. You must also allow our inspectors on all your military ships. Alina felt her jaw tighten. She had heard this before. Always the same. Pattern humans would create something new and amazing, and the aliens would demand it. They would say it was for the good of the galaxy. They would say humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous to have such things. From the observation deck above, Captain Jake Morrison watched the scene unfold. He stood next to Admiral Susan Clark, both of them in their military uniforms. Jake had short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting space pirates and protecting trade routes for the Council for 10 years. He was sick of it. They want our quantum drives, Jake whispered to the Admiral. The same drives that let us save their colonies from the Void Stalkers last month. Admiral Clark nodded. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp features. She had commanded fleets for 20 years, and next month they'll want something else. It never ends, Jake. Below them, another alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant blue jellyfish floating in a tank of water. It was Speaker Hydros from the Oceanic Collective. Its voice bubbled through the water before the translators made it clear. The humans are valuable partners, Hydros said. But they must understand their place. They are new to the galaxy. They need guidance. Alina felt anger rising in her chest. Guidance. That was what they always called it. But it felt more like a leash getting tighter each year. When humans first joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, it had seemed like a dream. Meeting aliens, sharing knowledge, exploring the stars together. But the dream had turned sour. The Council took human medicine and made it better, then sold it back to human colonies at high prices. They took human ship designs and used them for their own fleets. They took human soldiers and sent them to fight in wars that had nothing to do with Earth. And every time humans complained, they were told to be grateful for the opportunity to serve. Another platform lowered itself closer to the chamber floor. On it stood a tall, thin creature that looked like a walking stick made of silver metal. This was Uniprime of the Machine Collective. Red lights blinked where its eyes should be. The data is clear, Uniprime said in a voice like grinding gears. Human innovation drives 67% of galactic technological advancement. However, humans show concerning patterns of aggression and unpredictability. Control measures are required. Alina almost laughed. Unpredictable. That was what they called it when humans refused to follow orders blindly. Aggressive. That was what they called it when humans fought back against pirates and slavers while the Council debated and formed committees. We have given you much, Alina said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Our doctors have saved millions of lives on your worlds. Our engineers have built the stations you live on. Our soldiers have died protecting your colonies. What have you given us in return? A ripple of movement went through the assembled aliens. They were not used to humans speaking so directly. Actually, human diplomats were more careful with their words, but Alina was tired of being careful. Z-H Prime's platform moved closer. His claws clicked against the metal as he leaned forward. You have been given the gift of civilization, human. Before you met us, you were stuck on one small world. We brought you to the stars. We brought ourselves to the stars, Alina replied. We built our own ships. We developed our own technology. It just showed us there were other worlds to visit. The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Clicks, buzzes, roars, and mechanical noises filled the air as aliens spoke in their own languages. Alina stood calm in the center of it all, waiting for quiet to return. Jake Morrison gripped the rail of the observation deck. His knuckles were white. He had lost good people in council wars. He had watched human colonies struggle while aliens grew rich off human inventions. He was done with it all. "She's really going to do it," he whispered to Admiral Clark. "It's about time," the Admiral replied. The noise died down as Zeth Prime raised one clawed hand. "The decision is made, human. You will comply with our requirements or face the consequences." Alina took a deep breath. In that moment, she thought about Earth. She thought about the blue oceans and white clouds. She thought about human children learning to read and dream. She thought about scientists working in laboratories making discoveries that would change the galaxy. She thought about all of it being controlled by others. "No," she said simply. The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. "No." Zeth Prime asked, "You refuse the will of the Council?" Alina looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some looked angry. Some looked shocked. A few looked afraid. Good. It was time they learned that humans were not pets to be trained. "Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council," Alina said. Her voice was steady and clear. "You'll no longer follow your laws. You'll no longer share our technology. We will no longer fight your wars. We're done." The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted and clicked and buzzed in dozens of languages. Platforms moved frantically as council members tried to speak over each other. Through it all, Alina Rodriguez stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides, her face calm. Above her, Jake Morrison smiled for the first time in months. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They were about to learn that Earth could survive just fine without them. But could the galaxy survive without Earth? The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every world and every space station, aliens gathered around communication screens to hear the impossible. Earth had left the Council. The humans were gone, on the trading world of Nexus Station. Merchant Queen Vixstack clicked her mandibles in distress. She was an insectoid creature with 6 arms and compound eyes that could see in all directions. Her trading empire stretched across 40 systems, and most of it depended on human goods. "This cannot be real," she buzzed to her assistant. "The humans would not dare. They need us." But even as she spoke, human cargo ships were powering up their engines in the station's docking bays. Captain Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of her massive freighter, the New Horizon. She was a woman in her 30s with black hair tied back. In a neat bun, her ship was loaded with medical supplies bound for the healer worlds. "Captain," her first officer said, "we're getting emergency messages from the healer worlds. They're begging us not to leave." Lisa looked at the messages scrolling across her screen. Desperate pleas from alien doctors, offers of huge payments, promises of better treatment. But her orders were clear. All humans were to return to Earth space immediately. "Send them a message," Lisa said. "Tell them we're sorry, but we have our orders. The contract is ended." The New Horizon's engines flared to life, and the ship pulled away from the docking port. Behind them, Vixstack watched in horror as ship after ship left the station. Human traders, human engineers, human doctors, all heading home. "Will we maintain the medical systems?" Vixstack asked her assistant. "The humans designed everything. They know how it all works." Her assistant, a small furry creature called a Feck, shook his head. "We will have to learn quickly, Merchant Queen, or find new suppliers." But there were no new suppliers. For 200 years, human innovation had driven galactic progress. Human doctors had created medicines that could cure diseases that had plagued alien races for centuries. Human engineers had built the massive space stations that served as trading hubs. Human scientists had solved problems that alien minds could not even understand. On Earth, President Robert Hayes sat in his office. In Washington, he was a tall man with silver hair and worried eyes. Around him sat his closest advisors. Defense Secretary Danny Wright was a former soldier with scars on his hands. Science advisor Dr. Patricia Newman was a brilliant woman who had worked with alien scientists for years. "The economic reports are coming in," Dr. Newman said, reading from her tablet. 17 worlds have declared economic emergencies. The healer worlds are facing a complete collapse of their medical systems. The industrial collective cannot maintain their factories without human-designed automation. President Hayes nodded. Slowly. "How long before they come asking us to return?" "Not long," Danny Wright said. "But we need to be ready. Some of them might try to force us back." The president looked out his window at the city below. Humans were going about their daily lives, unaware that their species had just made the most important decision in galactic history. "We've made our choice. Now we have to live with it." Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's withdrawal were becoming clear. On the medical world of Sanctuary, Dr. Ryan Cooper was packing his equipment. He was one of the few human doctors still working in alien space. And his patients were panicking. A tall, blue-skinned alien doctor named Healer Zephyr approached him. "Dr. Cooper, please. You cannot leave. The regeneration chambers will fail without human maintenance. Thousands will die." Ryan looked at the alien with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, Zephyr. I've taught you everything I can. The basic principles are sound. You'll have to figure out the rest." "But the quantum cellular reconstruction process," Zephyr pleaded. "We do not understand how it works. It is beyond our science." Ryan paused in his packing. This was the hard part. He had worked with these aliens for years. He considered some of them friends, but Earth's decision was final. "Then you'll have to develop your own science," Ryan said gently. "You did it before humans arrived. You can do it again." But Zephyr knew that was not true before humans joined. The galaxy medical science had been stagnant for centuries. Alien races had reached the limits of their understanding. Human creativity and innovation had pushed those limits far beyond what anyone thought possible. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, plant manager Troy Anderson was overseeing the shutdown of the largest manufacturing complex in the galaxy. The factory produced everything from personal computers to starship engines. It employed millions of aliens and supplied dozens of worlds. "Sir," his alien assistant said, "the Builders Guild is offering to triple our salaries if we stay." Troy shook his head. "We can't stay. These are our orders." He looked around at the massive factory floor. Robots and assembly lines stretched as far as the eye could see, all of it designed by human engineers. All of it running on human-written software. "What will happen to the factory?" another worker asked. Troy sighed. "We'll try to keep it running. But without human oversight, without human maintenance, without human innovation to keep improving the systems." He shrugged. "It'll last maybe 6 months before major failures start." The alien workers gathered around him looked frightened. This factory was their livelihood. Their families depended on the wages it provided. Products it made were essential to dozens of worlds. "Cannot some humans stay?" one of them asked hopefully. "As independent contractors?" "No," Troy said firmly. "Earth's decision is final. We're all going home." As the last human transport ships prepared to leave Forge Prime, alien engineers frantically tried to understand the systems they would inherit. But human technology was not just advanced, it was intuitive. It required a way of thinking that aliens had never developed. The ripple effects spread outward from world to world. Space stations that had operated flawlessly for decades began experiencing system failures. Trade routes that had been maintained by human navigators became dangerous as alien pilots struggled with quantum navigation systems. Military bases found their weapons systems malfunctioning without human technicians to maintain them. On the war-torn border world of Sigma Outpost, Commander Krell of the Keth military watched his plasma cannons overheat and shut down during a pirate attack. The weapons had been modified with human improvements that made them 3 times more effective. But without human maintenance, they were failing. "Get me a human technician," Krell roared at his communications officer. "Sir," the officer replied nervously, "there are no human technicians. They've all returned to Earth space." Krell's yellow eyes blazed with fury. "Then get me the technical manuals." The humans took those too, sir. They said the information was proprietary. For the first time in his military career, Commander Krell felt helpless. His weapons were failing, his ships were breaking down, and the enemy was pressing their advantage. The Keth had always prided themselves on their military might, but that might depended on human innovation. Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Clark stood in the war room, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Each report showed the same pattern: systems failing, economies collapsing, aliens struggling to maintain what humans had built. Phase 1 is complete, she reported to President Hayes. All human personnel have been evacuated from alien space. All human-operated facilities have been shut down. All technical data has been secured. The President nodded. In Phase 2, Admiral Clark smiled grimly. Phase 2 is already beginning. We wait, we watch, and we prepare for what comes next. Outside the war room windows, Earth continued its slow rotation. The blue and white marble that had given birth to humanity looked peaceful and calm. But beneath that calm surface, the most innovative species in the galaxy was preparing for its greatest challenge. They had severed ties with the galactic community. Now, they would discover what they could accomplish on their own. The galaxy was about to learn that they needed humans far more than humans needed them. 3 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was in chaos. On the medical world of Sanctuary, thousands of aliens waited in long lines outside the hospitals. The regeneration chambers that could heal any wound were shutting down one by one. Without human maintenance, the delicate quantum systems were failing. Healer Zephyr stood in the main medical center, staring at a machine that had saved countless lives. Now it was nothing more than an expensive piece of metal and crystal. The diagnostic screen showed error messages in human text that no alien could understand. Asked Chief Healer Morpheus, an elderly alien. With pale blue skin and wise eyes, 12 out of 300, Zephyr replied sadly, and those will fail within days. Morpheus shook his head. In my youth, we healed with traditional methods, slow but effective. Now our young healers do not know these old ways. They've learned only to operate human machines. Outside the medical center, desperate aliens gathered. Some had traveled from distant worlds, spending their life savings for treatment that was no longer available. A young Feck mother held her sick child, tears streaming down her furry face. Please, she begged Zephyr. My daughter needs the bone regenerator. Her legs were crushed in an accident. Zephyr looked at the child with compassion, but there was nothing he could do. The bone regenerator had been a human invention. Without human knowledge, it was useless. Meanwhile, on the edge of Council space, the military situation was becoming desperate. The Crimson Fleet, a notorious group of pirates, had grown bold. Their leader, Captain Vex, was a scarred alien with mechanical arms and a cruel smile. Attack the mining convoy, Vex ordered his ships. The Council's defenses are weak without human support. He was right. The Council's war fleet, the Galactic Defense Force, was struggling. Human engineers. Now those weapons were breaking down without proper maintenance. Admiral Thane, commander of the defense fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was a proud warrior from the Stellar Kingdom, with golden skin and 4 arms. His ancestors had fought in space battles for 1,000 years, but they had never faced anything like this. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the plasma cannon array is overheating again. Cooling system is not working properly, and the shield generators," Thane asked. "Running at 60% efficiency, sir? The power regulators are failing?" Thane gritted his teeth. These were human improvements that had made his fleet the most powerful in the galaxy. Now they were becoming weaknesses. His ships were falling apart, and the pirates knew it. The battle was a disaster. The Crimson Fleet destroyed 3 defense ships and captured 2 cargo vessels full of valuable minerals. Admiral Thane's flagship barely escaped, limping back to base with half its systems offline. On Earth, Admiral Susan Clark watched the battle reports with grim satisfaction. She sat in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by screens showing events across the galaxy. "The pirates are getting bolder," reported Captain Jake Morrison. "They hit another convoy yesterday. The Council lost 8 ships. Their military doctrine depended entirely on our technology," Admiral Clark replied. "Without it, they're back to fighting like they did centuries ago. Slow, clumsy, ineffective." President Robert Hayes joined them, looking tired but determined. "Any word from the Council? 3 separate diplomatic missions have requested meetings," Admiral Clark said. "The Oceanic Collective wants to negotiate. The Machine Collective has offered to trade data for technical support. Even the Keth are making inquiries." The president nodded thoughtfully. "Let them wait. We have our own problems to solve." He was right. Earth faced challenges too. For decades, human colonies had relied on trade with alien worlds. Now those trade routes were closed. Food shipments, manufactured goods, and raw materials that once flowed freely were cut off. But humans were adapting faster than anyone expected. On Mars, Colony Director Beth Martinez was overseeing the expansion of hydroponic farms. She was a practical woman who had spent years managing the Red Planet's agriculture. "We need to be self-sufficient," she told her team. "No more importing food from the agri-worlds. We grow it ourselves or we go hungry." The challenge was enormous. Mars had only supported 500,000 people by importing food from alien agricultural worlds. Now, they needed to feed that population entirely from local resources, but human ingenuity was finding solutions. Dr. Kevin Parker, formerly the chief scientific liaison with aliens, now worked on Mars developing new farming techniques. His team had created genetically modified crops that could grow in Martian soil with minimal water. "The yield is 3 times higher than traditional crops," Dr. Parker reported to Beth. "And they're more nutritious. We can feed the entire colony." With just these new farms, similar innovations were happening throughout human space. On Europa, engineers were developing new methods to extract resources from the ice moon. On Luna, factories were being built to produce everything from computer chips to starship engines. The key difference was motivation. For years, humans had shared their innovations with aliens, making the galaxy better for everyone. Now, they were focused entirely on human needs, and progress was accelerating rapidly. Dr. Patricia Newman, the President's science advisor, presented her monthly report. "To the leadership, our research and development has increased by 400% since the withdrawal. Without the requirement to share our discoveries, scientists are pushing boundaries they never dared cross before." She showed them holographic displays of new technologies. Faster engines, more efficient power systems, advanced manufacturing techniques that could build anything humans needed. "The Council restricted many of our research projects," Dr. Newman continued. "We're too dangerous. Now we're free to explore those possibilities." One project particularly interested Admiral Clark. Dr. Michelle Davis had been working on faster-than-light communication. For centuries, this had been considered impossible by alien scientists, but human researchers approached the problem differently. Achieved breakthrough, Dr. Davis reported via hologram from her laboratory on Titan. Real-time communication across any distance. No more delays, no more waiting for messages to travel through space. The implications were staggering. Human colonies could coordinate instantly. Military operations could be managed in real time across the entire solar system. It was a technology that would change everything. Meanwhile, the galaxy's problems were getting worse. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, the great factories were shutting down. Without human oversight, the automated systems had broken down beyond repair. Troy Anderson's replacement, an alien engineer named Constructor Vel, stood in the silent factory halls. Machines that had run continuously for decades were now cold, and still, the alien workers had tried to fix them, but human technology was too complex for their understanding. "How long until production resumes?" asked Vel's supervisor. "Unknown," Vel replied honestly. "We are attempting to reverse engineer the human systems, but it may take years, perhaps decades." The economic impact was devastating. Dozens of worlds depended on products manufactured on Forge Prime. Without those products, entire industries were collapsing. Unemployment was rising, and social unrest was beginning to spread. On the council world of Centralists' emergency sessions were being held daily. Speaker Quantum 9 of the Silicon Collective addressed the assembly of desperate aliens. "The situation is critical," the mechanical being reported. "Economic collapse is spreading across 47 systems. Military defeats are mounting. Medical systems are failing. We must find a solution." Counselor Zeth Prime, the Keth leader who had triggered the crisis, shifted uncomfortably on his platform. His earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by growing fear, perhaps, he said carefully. "We were too hasty in our demands. The humans may be willing to negotiate." Negotiate? Speaker Hydros bubbled angrily. "They severed all ties. They refused to answer our communications. They have abandoned us completely." But that was not entirely true. On Earth, human leaders were watching and waiting. They received every desperate message from the Council. They saw every offer, every plea, every threat. "They're starting to break," Admiral Clark observed. "The Keth are facing rebellion in 3 systems. The Oceanic Collective has lost 2 colonies to disease outbreaks. The Machine Collective's manufacturing centers are offline." President Hayes studied the reports carefully. "How long before they realize they have only one choice?" Admiral Clark replied, "They're proud, but they're not stupid. Soon they'll understand that the galaxy needs us more than we need them." As the months passed, that truth became undeniable. The great galactic civilization that had dominated the stars for millennia was crumbling without human support. And on Earth, humanity was growing stronger every day. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were junior partners who needed their guidance. Now, they were learning the truth. Humans had been the foundation holding everything. Together, without that foundation, everything was falling apart. 1 year had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. While the galaxy struggled with collapse, Earth had entered a golden age of discovery and innovation. Dr. Michelle Davis stood in her laboratory on Titan, watching the final test of humanity's greatest breakthrough. The faster-than-light communication array hummed with energy, its crystalline components glowing with soft blue light. She was a woman in her 40s with short red hair and excited eyes. "Are we ready for the test?" she asked her team. "All systems are green, Doctor," replied her assistant, Engineer Carl Lopez. "The transmission array on Alpha Centauri is standing by." Michelle took a deep breath. This was the moment they had worked toward for months. Real-time communication across 4 light-years of space. Something alien scientists had declared impossible. For centuries. "Send the message," she ordered. The array pulsed with brilliant light. Instantly, a response came back from the human colony at Alpha Centauri. No delay, no wait time. Perfect, immediate communication across the vast emptiness of space. "It works," Carl whispered in amazement. "It actually works," Michelle smiled, with satisfaction. This was what humans could accomplish when they were free to push boundaries. The Galactic Council had forbidden research into faster-than-light communication, calling it dangerous and impossible.
Ow!
Humans had achieved it. In just 12 months of unrestricted work, on Earth, President Robert Hayes received the news in his office. With him sat Defense Secretary Danny Wright and science advisor Dr. Patricia Newman. The mood was celebratory, but focused. "This changes everything," Dr. Newman said, reviewing the test results. "We can coordinate our colonies instantly." Military operations can be managed in real time. Gives us advantages the aliens cannot imagine. President Hayes nodded thoughtfully. "What other projects are showing progress?" "The stealth technology program has exceeded all expectations," Danny Wright reported. "Commander Amy Rodriguez completed the first test flight yesterday." Amy Rodriguez was Elena's younger sister, a test pilot with nerves of steel and a brilliant, tactical mind. She had volunteered to fly humanity's first stealth destroyer, a ship that incorporated technologies the Council had banned as too dangerous. The ship was called the Shadow Walker. It represented everything humans could achieve. Without alien restrictions, its hull was made from materials that absorbed all known sensor frequencies. Its engines produced no detectable emissions. Its weapon systems were more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Amy stood on the bridge of the Shadow Walker, floating. In the darkness near Jupiter, her crew was small but highly trained. Navigator Pete Collins worked at his station, monitoring the ship's revolutionary quantum drive. Weapons officer Sarah Kim checked the targeting systems. "All stations report." "Ready," Amy announced. "Beginning stealth field activation." The ship seemed to vanish. On sensors, it appeared as if the Shadow Walker had simply stopped existing. But Amy and her crew could see everything around them through their advanced sensor array. Were invisible to every detection method in the galactic database, Pete reported with excitement. "The aliens couldn't find us if we were sitting on their doorstep." This was more than just military technology. It represented a new phase of human development. Free from alien oversight, human scientists were exploring ideas that had been forbidden. For decades, the results were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Meanwhile, human colonies were thriving with new independence. On Mars, Colony Director Beth Martinez watched massive new domes being constructed. The Red Planet's population had doubled in the past year as humans fled alien-controlled worlds. "The new atmospheric processors are working perfectly," reported Chief Engineer Tony Garcia. "We're generating breathable air faster than ever before. The new fusion reactors provide unlimited clean energy." Beth looked out at the Martian landscape, now dotted with green domes filled with earth plants and blue skies. "How many more refugees can we accommodate?" "With the new expansion, we can support 2 million people," Tony replied. "And we're building more domes every month." This was happening throughout human space. Luna had become a massive industrial center, its factories producing everything from starships to household goods. Europa's ice mines provided water for the entire solar system. The asteroid belt was being systematically harvested for rare metals and minerals. Most importantly, humans were no longer sharing their innovations with anyone else. Every breakthrough, every discovery, every new technology stayed within human hands. The effect was dramatic acceleration of progress. Dr. Kevin Parker, working on advanced genetics research, had created crops that could grow in pure vacuum with minimal resources. Engineer Bill Nelson had designed manufacturing systems that could build entire cities from raw asteroids. Dr. Carol Martinez had developed medical treatments that made human lifespans significantly longer. "We're advancing faster than we ever did while in the Council," Dr. Patricia Newman reported to President Hayes. "Without the requirement to share our research, without alien restrictions on dangerous technologies, without the constant demands for our attention and resources, human progress has exploded." She showed him statistics that were almost unbelievable. Human technological advancement had increased by 600% since leaving the Council. New patents were being filed daily. Scientific breakthroughs that might have taken decades were happening in months. But the most significant development was psychological. Humans were thinking bigger, dreaming larger, pushing boundaries they had never dared approach before. Constant criticism and restrictions from aliens had been holding back human creativity. Now that creativity was unleashed. Commander Jake Morrison, promoted to admiral, oversaw the construction of humanity's new defense fleet. The ships being built in Luna's orbital shipyards were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "The new destroyer class is ready for testing," he reported to Admiral Clark. It incorporates stealth technology, quantum communications, and weapon systems that exceed galactic standards by orders of magnitude. Admiral Clark studied the ship, designs with satisfaction. How does it compare to Council military vessels? There's no comparison, Jake replied honestly. Our smallest destroyer could probably defeat their largest battleship. The technology gap has become enormous. This was the result of unrestricted human innovation. While aliens struggled to maintain old technologies, humans were creating entirely new categories of advancement. The galaxy had always assumed they were more advanced than humanity. Now the opposite was becoming true. On the remote world of New Geneva, human colonists were conducting the most ambitious experiment of all. Dr. Rachel Stone led a team attempting to terraform an entire planet using new atmospheric engineering techniques. The nanomycene swarms are working perfectly, she reported to Earth. We are converting the atmosphere from toxic to breathable in just 5 years instead of the 50 years aliens said it would take. The planet was becoming a garden world, with blue skies and green forests spreading across continents. It was a demonstration of human capability that would have been impossible under Council oversight, back on Earth. The leadership monitored these developments with growing confidence. Humanity was not just surviving without the galaxy, they were thriving beyond their wildest dreams. The question now, President Hayes said to his advisors, is what we do when the aliens come asking for help. It will come, Admiral Clark predicted. The reports from our deep space monitors show increasing chaos throughout Council space. Pirates are overrunning entire systems. Disease outbreaks are spreading unchecked. Economic collapse is accelerating. Hidden human observation posts throughout the galaxy reported the same story everywhere. Alien civilizations were crumbling without human support. Their technology was failing, their economies were collapsing, their military forces were being defeated by criminals and rebels. Some council members are already trying to make contact, Dr. Newman reported. We've intercepted dozens of diplomatic messages, offers of trade, requests for technical assistance, even some threats. President Hayes considered this carefully. We ignore them all for now. Let them understand the full scope of their dependence. When they're desperate enough, they'll offer us what we really want, which is, Danny Wright asked. Complete autonomy, the president replied. There's no restrictions on our research. No demands for technology sharing. No military obligations. No alien oversight of human activities. If they want our help, they'll have to accept us as equals. Equals, not junior partners. As humanity continued its rapid advancement, the galaxy's situation grew more desperate by the day. The great galactic civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia was learning a harsh lesson. They had mistaken humanity's cooperation for dependence. Now they were discovering who really needed whom. The humans were no longer the young species seeking guidance. They had become the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Technology and capabilities that aliens could barely comprehend, and they had no intention of sharing those advantages without getting something valuable. In return, 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was on the edge of complete collapse. Speaker Quantum 9 of the Silicon Collective stood in the council chamber. But it was not the same grand hall where Alina Rodriguez had declared independence. Half the platforms were empty. Many species had withdrawn from the council to deal with their own crises. The remaining aliens looked desperate and afraid. The situation is beyond critical, Quantum 9 announced to the sparse assembly. Red. Warning lights blinked where its eyes should be. 43 systems have declared independence from Council authority. Economic collapse has spread to every member world. Military forces cannot contain the spreading rebellions. Counselor Zeth Prime shifted uncomfortably on his platform. The proud Keth warrior looked older now, his scales dull and his yellow eyes tired. What about the humans? Have they responded to our messages? Nothing, Speaker Hydros bubbled sadly. From his water tank, complete silence. They ignore every communication attempt. The truth was worse than silence. Human deep space monitors were watching everything. They saw the riots on Centralis, observed the pirate fleets that now controlled entire star systems. They monitored the disease outbreaks that were killing millions because medical systems had failed. Admiral Susan Clark stood in Earth's command center, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. With her were Admiral Jake Morrison and Elena Rodriguez, who now served as Secretary of Galactic Affairs. The Keth Empire has lost 6 systems to rebellion, Jake reported. Their military can't maintain their equipment without human technicians. They're fighting with weapons that are centuries old. The Oceanic Collective is worse, Elena added. 3 of their worlds have gone completely dark. We think their life support systems failed entirely. Admiral Clark nodded grimly. And the Silicon Collective? Their manufacturing centers are offline, Jake replied. They're trying to rebuild from scratch, but they don't understand the principles behind human automation. It will take them decades to reach even basic functionality. This was the reality the galaxy faced. For 2 centuries, they had grown dependent on human innovation. Now, without human support, they were reverting to primitive technology. Civilizations that had ruled the stars were struggling to maintain basic space travel. Meanwhile, humanity had achieved wonders. The human Starfleet now included ships that could travel faster than anything aliens had ever imagined. Human colonies stretched across dozens of star systems. Human technology had advanced so far that even old Earth seemed like a primitive world by comparison. On the new world of New Eden, humanity's first fully terraformed planet, Dr. Rachel Stone walked through forests that had not existed 5 years ago. The project that aliens said would take centuries had been completed using human nanomachine technology. Population is approaching 10 million, she reported to Earth via instantaneous quantum communication. Agricultural output exceeds all projections. We're fully self-sufficient in producing surplus food for other colonies. New Eden was just one example of human expansion. Humanity now controlled 37 star systems, each one prospering beyond anything they had achieved while in the Council. Free from alien restrictions and constant demands for their resources, humans had built a civilization that dwarfed their former achievements. But the galaxy's desperation was reaching a breaking point. On the border world of Sigma Outpost, Commander Krell of the Keth military faced his final battle. The Crimson Fleet pirates had grown into a massive armada, and they were closing in on the last Council stronghold in the sector. Sir. His communications officer reported the pirates are demanding our surrender. They say the Council's authority is meaningless now. Krell looked at his failing weapon systems and knew the officer was right. Without human technology, without human maintenance, his once mighty fortress was defenseless. Send a message to the Council. Tell them Sigma Outpost will fall within hours. The message reached Centralis as the Council was meeting in emergency session. The few remaining delegates faced the ultimate humiliation. Their military was defeated, their economy was ruined, and their authority was gone. We have no choice. Counselor Zeth Prime said quietly, "We must ask the humans for help." Ask Speaker Quantum 9 replied, "What can we offer them? They have everything they need. They have surpassed us in every way." The answer came from an unexpected source. An old alien named Elder Wisdom stepped forward. He was from a species called the Keepers, the oldest race. In the galaxy, they had been members of the Council since its founding. "We offer them what they have always wanted," Elder Wisdom said in a voice like rustling leaves. "Respect, equality. The recognition that they are not our students, but our teachers." The decision was unanimous. The surviving Council members would journey to Earth not as rulers demanding obedience, but as supplicants begging for assistance. The alien delegation arrived at the edge of human space aboard a simple transport ship. Their great warships had been left behind, both as a sign of peaceful intent and because most of them no longer worked properly. They were met by Admiral Clark aboard humanity's newest flagship, the Enterprise Dawn. The ship was so advanced that it seemed almost magical to alien eyes. Its hull shimmered with energy fields that made it nearly invulnerable. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Sensors could detect objects light years away. "I am Admiral Susan Clark," she announced to the alien delegation. "Welcome to human space." The aliens were led by Speaker Quanta 9, Elder Wisdom, and surprisingly, Counselor Zeth Prime. The proud Keth warrior, who had triggered this crisis now, looked humble and defeated. Admiral Clark, Speaker Quantum 9 said, We come seeking assistance. Our civilization is collapsing. Millions are dying. We ask for humanitarian aid." Admiral Clark studied the aliens with calm eyes. 2 years ago, your council demanded that we surrender our technology and submit to your oversight. You called us too dangerous and unpredictable to be trusted with our own innovations. What has changed? The question hung in the air like a sword. Elder Wisdom stepped forward, his ancient eyes filled with regret. "We were wrong," he said simply. "We believed ourselves superior because we were older, because we had built the galactic civilization. We did not understand that age does not equal wisdom, and that past achievements do not guarantee future success." Zeth Prime moved forward, his warrior's pride finally broken. "I demanded your submission. I called your species inferior. I was a fool without human innovation, without human creativity, without human problem solving. The galaxy is dying." Admiral Clark nodded slowly. "And what are you offering in return for our assistance?" "Anything," Speaker Quantumine replied desperately. "Complete autonomy for human space. No restrictions on your research. No demands for technology sharing. No military obligations. You would be equal partners, not subordinates." "Equal partners?" Admiral Clark asked. "Or senior partners?" The question shocked the aliens. They had come expecting to negotiate from weakness, but they had not considered that humanity might now be in a position of superiority. Alina Rodriguez joined the conversation via hologram from Earth. "The President has authorized me to present our terms," she announced. "We will provide humanitarian assistance to prevent further deaths. We will help restore basic services to your worlds. We will assist in rebuilding your civilizations." The aliens looked hopeful for the first time in months. "However," Alina continued, "the galaxy must be restructured. The old council system is finished. Humans will lead a new galactic federation based on voluntary cooperation, not forced submission. Species that wish to join must contribute according to their abilities and accept human leadership in technological and military matters." Elder Wisdom bowed his head. "We accept your terms." "All species must accept," Alina clarified. "Those who refuse will receive no assistance and will be left to solve their own problems." Within days, every surviving alien government had agreed to the new structure. They had no choice. Without human help, their civilizations would continue to collapse. But humanity's response was not vengeful. As aid ships carrying human doctors, engineers, and supplies spread across the galaxy, they came not as conquerors, but as helpers. Human medicine saved millions of lives. Human technology restored failing systems. Human innovation began rebuilding what had been lost. The galaxy was being saved, but it was a different galaxy now. Humanity had learned that their creativity and innovation were not gifts to be shared freely, but resources to be used wisely. They had also learned that they could survive and thrive without alien approval. As Alina Rodriguez stood on Unity Prime, now expanded and improved with the latest human technology, she watched alien delegates arriving for the first meeting of the new Galactic Federation. They came not as rulers, but as junior partners in a human-led alliance. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson. Humanity had never needed them. They had needed humanity. And now, finally, the relationship was honest about who was really in charge. The stars themselves seemed brighter as humanity looked outward toward new galaxies, new civilizations, and new adventures. They had severed ties with those who held them back, and in doing so, they had discovered their true potential. The cosmos was no longer in panic. It was in human hands.